Next, we're joined by Zhenya Kostenko, the DevOps guy. You know, if we live in a simulated reality and it works on some server, I would definitely allow Zhenya to work with this server, to be responsible for it. But anyway, several months ago, he told us about what developers are doing wrong and make the DevOps guys angry. But this time, he came to confess that DevOps guys can do something wrong sometimes. So, Zhenya, it's time to confess.
Exactly what I thought about. So, hi, this speech is titled somewhat clickbait style, DevOps Sin City, and I would like to talk about some dirty secrets of DevOps engineers and site reliability engineers. But probably before we continue, I should mention that the mistakes that I will be disclosing not only related to DevOps guys, but mostly to classic system administrator and maybe other professions. So it's mostly about human errors, etc. The next slide. What I can tell about myself. So I have 15 plus years of experience with Linux. I worked as a system administrator, as a developer, as an instructor in training centers, etc., etc. So probably right now I should call myself a DevOps engineer. And also I am CEO and founder of OSSHelp team. We are outsourcers. We are offering our services as DevOps and site reliability engineers. So this is a quick introduction for those who didn't see me earlier at the same spot. So before we continue, I think we should establish some ground rules because those rules we can't change. It's basically about human nature or human limitations. So the first and most important rule that people make mistakes. You can't change it. You probably can fight it probably with some measures. You can reduce amount of errors, but you can't eradicate it totally. So you just have to accept it and somewhat deal with it. So the next problem or rule, you can decide how to call it by yourself, but it's about people getting tired. So when you work, you're basically wasting your energy, and when this energy is depleted, you are losing your focus, concentration, and you will make some mistakes. It will happen, want you or not. And the last one is somewhat close to clickbait. I call it everyone is lazy, but I'm not trying to say something bad about people. It's about our nature, and probably from ancient times when we live in caves, since those times, our brain still trying to preserve energy, and this behavior is nowadays called laziness. So our brain is trying to use as a minimal amount of energy as possible. So this is how it is. So we should continue with such rules to the next slide. So the biggest problem is inadvertency. In easy explanation, it's just a lack of attention, lack of concentration. So this is just a follow-up from the previous slide. The first point, I called it entering robot mode. Also, nowadays, there are plenty of robots, but the functionality and algorithms mostly very basic and mostly very limited. So I saw many situations, not only from my colleagues, but in general about any other professions, when a person becomes almost a robot. So it's basic functions without even considering the changing of environment, changing of situation. So you're just performing some duty and you don't care what changed and how it should affect your actions. So it's, to be honest, it's very dumb behavior, but nonetheless it exists. And at the same time it's very dangerous, because when you're just ignoring something important, you will definitely break something. So another common problem, you probably heard of these short, I don't know how to name it, but it pronounced last like too long, didn't read. So I just don't want to read something long, so I skipped it. Yeah? And usually it's this behavior when you need to read something big, for example, documentation, and you don't want it. Usually it just skipped, mostly or partially, and you ignore some parts of critical information.
So it's the opposite of read the fucking manual.
Yes, exactly. It's the opposite of read it carefully and think about it. So I read some part of it, I think it's enough, I will proceed and I will see how it ends. The next point, it's about temporary changes. So there are plenty of situations when you need to create something that will exist only limited amount of time. But if we are talking about laziness again, someone forgot to document it, to even write it down, and those temporary instances exist infinite amount of time. And this will usually lead to your colleague or someone else waste a huge amount of time just trying to understand what it is, why does it exist, and should it be deleted or should be supported, etc., etc. So the rule of thumb, if there are any temporal instances or objects, those instances should be documented, or at least someone should know about it and what to do with such instances, or when terminated, etc., etc. And the most probably famous problem, it's about switching. So most of you already know it, but nonetheless the problem is very common when you are trying to do multiple tasks in the same amount of time. You're literally dividing your attention between them. For example, for our engineers, there's a strict rule that in one moment of time they should perform only one task. There are some very rare exclusions from this rule, but nonetheless, where are you hopping from one task to another, you will definitely lose something. So you will forget about something, or you will do something wrong, etc., etc. So the basic recommendation: you should try to stay focused on only one thing. Especially, it's important for engineers, or I don't know, maybe medical doctors and other very critical professions. So this is all about attention, and we should move to the configuration. This is somewhat consequences of previous topics from the previous slide. It's about ignoring the docs and specifics of current project. I saw many examples, not only in my team, but also in internet in general, where just some known facts just ignored, and because of that, something is critical is broken or forgotten or anything worse, etc., etc. So when you're trying to do any changes, you should consider the specifics of the project that you're working on, or instance that you're trying to apply some changes. Another common mistake, it's about making changes without following checks. For example, you know how to do it, you did it many times, and you're really sure that you know how to achieve the goal. The main problem that there are possible some changes that you missed, or you did something wrong, and if you didn't check the results of your work, for example, you created, I don't know, a database or another resource, and if you didn't check the access, or that created instance object is performing as expected, you probably missed something important, and you will get quite an angry answer when you will try to end this job, and when someone will be reading your report.
Zhenya, you know, I'm just wondering, is there anything in this world you haven't seen? I mean, the DevOps guys are almost like doctors, maybe gynecologists. I mean, it's very difficult to make you feel surprised, but you are saying that there is something in this world you face, and you are surprised. Some of your colleagues are not prepared. How does it happen?
quite a hard topic. Yes, I saw many very strange situations, very strange decisions, and very disastrous ends. So, if you are interested in some examples, you should ask more specific, and I will give you plenty of nightmares.
Yeah, maybe we'll do it in the end.
Yes, in the end there will be an example or somewhat close to it. So, when you're doing something, you should definitely check that you achieved your goal, that a created resource is performing as expected. And there is a recommendation to do it before you write a report that everything is done, I'm a good guy, etc., etc. So another common mistake is about wrong or broken sample. It could be incomplete copy-paste, it could be some bad advices from, I don't know, Stack Overflow, or it could be untested sample, boilerplate. But if you are taking something new that you didn't use before, you should definitely test it somewhere and don't believe that it will be working as you expected. It's quite often happens. So the next topic, it's common not only for DevOps engineers but for classical system administration ops guys. It's about data loss. So the most scariest thing and probably the most stupidest, it's about misclick or wrong command. So nowadays, when there are plenty of configuration management systems, or I don't know, maybe web interfaces, your misclick could lead to very, very disastrous consequences. Same goes for wrong command which you take from, I don't know, from your shell history, etc., etc. Because of the power of, because of, I don't know, the scale of the possible changes, those, I quote, overpriced assholes called DevOps engineers have very, very dangerous possibilities to make some bad changes. So it's very important to look thoroughly what are you planning to do and how will affect, I don't know, the production environment, for example. I saw very stupid things. You won't believe me if I tell you. So the next one is an old story. It's about the backups, and as probably you heard already, there are 3 stages of backups. The first one, you don't have any. It's very stupid, and when you know that you need backups, here's the second stage, when you are doing backups and they probably working all right. But the final stage of evolution, it's when you are not only doing backups, but you are checking those backups on regular basis, that the data from these backups can be restored and this data is correct, wasn't damaged, etc., etc. So these came from the system administration world, but nonetheless, DevOps is half ops, so this rule is still actual. The next one, it's kind of our internal rule. We don't delete anything when it's possible. We faced some very strange situation where customer asked us to delete the unneeded resources. We carefully prepared the list of those resources. We got approved on the list of those resources which need to be deleted. We even asked the customer twice before deleting this, but after we delete this, there was literal disaster. Within 5 minutes there was screams, fire, why you did it, and even answers, I'm sorry, you just asked us to do it, it didn't help. So since then we are trying to move any data that we are trying to delete. So instead of deleting, you just move it, or any other way, make it unavailable, change the permissions, change the ACL, just to simulate that this data does not exist. Because when someone made a mistake and asked you to delete this data, you will have a way back. You just need to move it to the original folder, I don't know, or apply original permissions. So we prefer not to delete anything until we really need to. And the last one, it's probably quite a specifics for the Linux administrator. Maybe you heard of commands called kill. This command is used to send the signals to a process. And most dangerous way of using this command in combination with databases. So I saw some very, I don't know, unscared guys, too brave or dumb, who prefer to terminate databases with unconditional termination. I mean, kill -9. For those who don't understand, it will definitely lead to damaged databases. And if we are talking about I don't have backups, then you will definitely lose your job or will be punished, etc., etc. So don't use kill until you're really sure what you're trying to do. The same goes not only for databases, but for any critical software about which you don't know enough, and maybe there are some unfinished transaction or intermediate state, etc., etc. There are some ways more safe to shut down process or terminate it. Okay, let's move further about downtime. The first point is most famous. It's about juniors in production. There are plenty of memes on this topic, but nonetheless, this problem still exists nowadays. So basically, we are talking about unprepared, untrained, untrusted person who, by some unknown reason, still have some very wide permissions and maybe even access to production environment. So usually it will end bad, and try not to do so if you value your, I don't know, job or money. So the next one, it's about unauthorized maintenance. Usually when we're talking about maintenance, there are some time window with approved by time window for such job. And we saw some situations where tasks were performed outside this maintenance window just because of lack of attention. Someone read something not thoroughly, or someone remembered it wrong. But literally, we were doing something wrong in wrong time. But not only we, there are plenty of situations in internet. And another one about I don't know how to correctly translate it. In Russian, it sounds like безумие отвага. So when you are doing some complex changes, for example, migration or I don't know, major improvements, you should always have a plan B, because there is always something that will go wrong, and somewhere in the middle of your step-by-step instruction you will have the problem that you didn't foresee, and you aren't ready, you don't know how to handle it. So you always should have a rollback scenario, how to, I don't know, to roll back everything that you did. So moving to the next slide, next section, it's about security. Initially I want to say some joke about Windows World, because very long time ago in Windows there was everything allowed by default, and only limited things was restricted. So nowadays there are two I don't know, default policies. So it's everything denied by default or everything allowed by default. And it's our recommendation to deny everything by default and approve only limited permissions. This advice is true for any, I don't know, objects and file system, ACL in your web server, security groups in your Amazon subnet, etc., etc. You should give only minimal amount of permissions or allowed actions. The next one is about unauthorized access. For example, I don't know, you are creating firewall rules and you totally forgot about some private port and you made some servers publicly available, or you made some mistake when creating SL from your web server. So this second point is tightly has a tight link with the next point about private info leak. So when you made something publicly available that shouldn't be publicly available, you will definitely regret this because some information will be stolen, I don't know, disclosed, etc., etc. And there are closely linked scenarios about debugging mode in production. For example, we saw many situations where in production there were enabled debug mode and some bug traces was shown to the wide audience, and this will definitely help a hacker or any other malicious person to break your servers. So just try to disclose minimal information as possible. And another bad habit, it's about people laziness again, and it's about decision it's about decision to run everything under system administrator account. In case of the Linux, we are talking about root. I don't want to trying to solve why I don't have enough permission, why it doesn't work as I expected. I will just run it under root and everything will be okay. Yes, it will be until someone found, I don't know, security hole in your software and literally owned your servers. So don't run everything under administrator in case of Windows or Linux system. It will end very bad for you. So, and probably the final section about monitoring, this whole situation is somewhat close to the backups. There are some stages, and the basic one, the most funniest that we heard, yeah, we have a production and we don't have a monitoring, we just don't need it. We will fix when something will be broken. So the next stage, it's about, yes, we have it, but when someone checks it, it's broken. Very unexpectedly, it didn't collect any required data, or time period of storage was very short. So even in this case, monitoring is totally useless because someone forgot to fix it after he broke it. And the next one, this is most common in, I don't know, write commands or experience commands. Yes, they have a monitoring system, but there are very unexpected scenarios when you are monitoring only system metrics. Yes, you know about, I don't know, space on your hard drives, about CPU usage, but when an engineer performs, I don't know, maintenance window, and when he finished, he goes to the monitoring system, he checks, yes, okay, web server answers with 200 error codes and everything seems okay, and he will write in his report that everything is okay, but after a few hours or maybe days, there will be a client literally screaming about the amount of money that he lost, because monitoring only system metrics isn't enough. You should definitely monitor what we call business metrics, any indicator that refers to business value. It's not about money, it's just about understanding that everything okay from the point of view of business, of owner.
It's like stopping receiving orders, for example, in an online shop. You mean, for example, you are...
Yes. In the simple examples, for example, you have a, I don't know, internet shop. Yes, it looks okay, it answers with page as expected, but your orders just stopped coming after some actions from DevOps guys or maybe from developers. And if you have a visual representation of those metrics, and even better, when you have alerts on those metrics, you will be alerted as soon as something changed. Not only when the line goes down, but when the line is outside of some range. So you should definitely monitor business metrics. And if you are not familiar with that, I would recommend you to Google about SLA, SLO, SLI. There is a video from Google which explains this in very basic terms. It's about service level, indicators, objectives, and agreement. So basically, this is it. And the final stage, when there is too much of monitoring. I mean, when your engineers are screaming from the amount of alerts or false positives. So basic rule of thumb that you should have alert or any other notification only when there is a need for human intervention. Any other alerts should be disabled or changed, corrected, etc., etc. Because when there are too much alerts, you will end up like a tale from about the boy and wolves. Yes, boy is running and screaming, wolves, wolves, no, but no one believes him because it's nothing again.
So it looks just like me with my 900 messages from Trello unread.
Exactly the same. It's I don't know how to pronounce correctly, but in English it's somewhat alerts fatigue. In Russian, this is усталость, информационная усталость. So you should limit the amount of interruptions, because for engineers every alert should be something important and not another unread Trello notification. So if all of this nightmare wasn't enough, you could check out this video. It's titled "Про боли факапы девопсов из первых рук." It's the recording of stream. I was a participant and a few of my colleagues, and we covered all of these topics in depth. There are plenty. There is a lengthy video, maybe 2 hours plus.
I'll post it in our Telegram channel.
Okay, it's. I recommend this only if you are literally interested to go deeper and understand how to deal with it. And another short, I don't know, maybe advice or topic. There will be event at the team lead Divani, and I will be talking about how to fight or how to at least reduce those amounts of errors. Maybe if you are a manager or you're interested, it will be useful for you. So, here is my contact information. If anyone interested, you could contact me. I will be glad to answer.
Great. And before we move to our Mojito part, any questions?
Wow. Okay.
Thank you again for your presentation. So, among all of the scenes, which one will be the deadliest scene for DevOps?
The deadliest, probably the data loss, because it's literally irreversible, and it will your API image will have a quite damage. If you remember about GitLab situation with Postgres, I'm talking about such situations.
And Daniel? Daniel.
Okay. Is junior DevOps engineers exist? Because it seems like all DevOps engineers are seniors by default. For example, I have never seen like a junior DevOps vacancy anywhere.
Not to advertise or something, but we have them and we even hire them from time to time. But if I want, okay, if I was joking, I would answer with no one seen them because we are hiding them from anyone and from the production especially.
And a question from here?
Okay, so you mentioned that one of the sins is doing something and not checking it. So how do you actually check the some of the complex work that DevOps do?
Probably the best answer is about a smart technique. I don't remember correctly, but about specific, measurable, achievable, etc., etc. It's about the task, the description, the segmentation, the planning, etc., etc. But I was trying to show the simplest example. If you created a database resource, you should definitely check that this is acceptable. This database is accessible under the credentials you just created. So you are doing some work, and this work will be used by someone, and you should simulate this behavior. You should check, is it possible to use it correctly, as was asked initially in task that you was assigned. So basically you should split those complex jobs in small parts and I don't know, maybe not check, but at least monitor everything.
Are these checkups performed by the same person who did the job, or is it a different person?
It depends on the side of your company, because there could be QA guys or maybe dedicated SRE team, so it really depends on many conditions.
Okay. Anyone else? Questions?
Could you tell us about the most scarable situation which you saw on production, maybe one example?
Or did you solve?
Solve or solve?
Solved.
Solved.
Which you saw, and after that you solved it and found a solution of this trouble.
I don't know about production, but for example, very long time ago, we had an access to a ticket system, I mean the server that hosts the ticket system, and the client literally blamed us on deleting some data for several days. And it was very strange situation, because we have system administration rights and they had the same root access, and we were saying that we didn't do it. They were saying we also didn't do that. By the logic, you did it. So since then we have how to describe it?
You know, it reminds me of that rocket launched by either Ukrainians or Russians. Sorry for involving politics here.
Yes, exactly. So since then we have a recording of every session of every engineer. I'm talking about SSH sessions. We can just literally replay any actions that was or wasn't done by our team. So this was the most scariest part, because we didn't have any proof and we couldn't say anything back on those allegations.
And there was a question from here.
Yes. Could you tell, maybe you use something from your work, from your main work in your everyday life? Maybe some lessons, maybe you back up your phone more often, or something?
Or you do something special with the microwave.
Probably I should tell that I'm paranoid by default, and I have almost always I have a plan B. So this is the same rule that I said previously. Anyone else?
Yeah. Anyone else? Have we finished? Yeah.
And last question probably, what was the first Linux distributive you have used?
It was Debian Potato 2.2. I bought it on 6 CD disk on the Dynamo market. I was a student, and it was quite a purchase for me at this time. So yeah, and in those times there was no mobile internet, there was no ADSL, there was only dial-up, and prices was quite heavy for me.
Okay, great. It looks like we finished. Zhenya, thank you so much. Well, we could listen to you for hours, but the mojito part won't wait, so thank you so much. And sorry, I just forgot. Did you like any particular question?
Maybe about using your own devices in your life.
Yeah, so Nina from Accenture, the puzzle goes to the gentleman. And please refer to that gentleman in white. He will treat you with some non-alcoholic mojito and some more energizing mojito. And yeah, and I have a favor to ask you about. It's really a formality. If you hadn't checked in when you came here, please go downstairs. Just tell the girls here I am. They will put like this on the paper, and that's all. But now enjoy yourself for 20 minutes till 9:20.